Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your first flipped lesson. Now, as we move through this, if you get to a point where we are just moving way too fast, you need to slow down so you can get those notes written down, feel free to just pause it so that you can get everything written down and make sure you understand it. If at any point you are just like, what, Ms. Wood? Don't understand anything you just said. Can you please repeat it? You have the controls. So you can go ahead and just start the video over or go back to the part that you need clarification on and watch it all over again to make sure you understand it all before you take flipped quiz 1 at the end of this to make sure you understand what's going on. So let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about objectivity and subjectivity. Let's start with objectivity because that's really going to be our focus as we move through the next unit of study, which is going to be reading informational articles and writing summaries of those articles. So when we talk about objectivity are things that have no opinion. So if we're being objective about something, there is no opinion. Another word we're going to use a lot instead of opinion is bias. All bias is opinion. So when we're being objective, we want to be as non-biased as possible and leave all of our opinions out because that's the trick with objective. Objective is like, break it down the word, an object. An object doesn't change. It's a fact. It is the way it is. When we're talking about objectivity, we're really focusing on the facts. Or when you read these articles, the evidence. What does that article say? Really hone in on those facts, the things that cannot change. Those are the objective pieces or the non-biased pieces. Here. Now, the last part about objectivity is that it can't be disputed. Disputed. We haven't really talked about that word before. Disputed means argued. If something can't be disputed or can't be argued, it is objective because there's no opinion attached to it. It's a fact. If I say the sky is blue, that is objective. It's a fact. It can't be argued. It is a fact. It's objective. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about when something is subjective. Now, breaking this word down for you, remember we talked about how objective has that object piece in it. It's an object. It's a fact. It doesn't change. Now, with subjective, subjective is subject to change because it's opinions. Or, that fancy word we used, it's biased. Now, in addition, when we have an opinion about something, we can back it up with evidence. But here's the tricky part. When something is subjective, yes, you may have evidence to back up that opinion, but it's when you add the bias or the opinion that something becomes subjective. It's no longer just a fact. You have a personal opinion about it. For example, I could say, Ms. Wood's class is so much fun because, here's my evidence, she has Hank Pinks on the board, she has a mind trap, and every Friday you can get candy. Now, another person might have evidence as to why my class is not fun. You could say, Ms. Wood's class is horrible because she talks way too fast, she's always saying dope knowledge, and she just thinks she is so cool, but she is so lame, which I know none of you think that, but let's just pretend. That person also had evidence. They also presented something that may be considered facts, but there's that bias piece added to it. There's that opinion that changes it from what might have been once objective to subjective. The last piece of this is that it can be argued. I might have that one person who's super stoked about Ms. Wood's class because they get candy every day, and that other person who's like, I can't handle Ms. Wood's class, and they could argue about it. Something that's subjective can be argued. So, everything that happened in objective, it's the exact opposite in subjective. So once you're able to understand something that's objective, all you have to do is change it to the opposite for subjective. Let's work with this a little bit. See if we're getting it. So, you all know my little sock monkey. You know the sock monkey, you've done your hat presentations with him, you've talked to him, he's become your friend, he's like our mascot in class, he sits on top of the candy. So, we have the sock monkey. Draw a little picture for you right here. If we're going to talk about objective facts about that sock monkey, we might say that it's pink. We can all see that, can't be argued. Just like the sky is blue, Ms. Wood's sock monkey is pink. We also might say that it's about 8 inches tall. That's a fact. Can't be argued, it's 8 inches tall. It's not 8 feet tall, it's 8 inches tall. Fact. Another thing we can say just by looking at it is that it's a little torn up on the nose because Delilah ate it. So we might say that it's torn on the nose. No one's gonna look at that sock monkey and say, oh, it's perfect, it's store-bought. No, it's not new, it's not right from the store, it's been chewed on, it has a hole in the nose. Now, if we change that to make it subjective, for example, I might say, I think that sock monkey's pretty cute. I also might say that it's really fun to play with. Now, those are my opinions of that sock monkey. You might have someone else who has a phobia or a fear of monkeys. So they're going to look at that torn up pink sock monkey and go, that's kind of scary looking. That is their opinion, and they're allowed to think that. Or, for example, I might think that sock monkey is super fun to play with. Delilah might think it's super boring and tedious. And that is her opinion. So notice we have two different opinions here. They both could be right, and they're both based on the evidence, but they're subjective. You could argue them. I think they're cute. Delilah thinks it's not cute, or someone with a fear of monkeys thinks it's not cute. That can be argued, but the objective facts about that monkey never changed. It's still pink, it's still 8 inches tall, and it's still torn on the nose. That's the difference between an objective view of that sock monkey and a subjective view of that sock monkey. The objective view is looking at the object just as it is, factually. The subjective view of that monkey is that it's subject to change. I might think it's cute, someone else might think it's not. So, taking that example of objectivity and subjectivity, we're really going to focus on that objectivity piece, like I said. So, for our summaries, there's 3 key things we really want to make sure we hit when we're writing some objective summaries. The first thing, we really want to make sure that when we read that article, we're pulling the facts from the article. Make sure you include those facts. Those are the things that can't be disputed. Those are the things that anyone could read that article and say, yep, that happened, that was in it, not arguable. Facts from the article. Perfect, great part of your summary. The next thing we really want to make sure we do is that we leave our personal opinions out. Remember that fancy word we assigned to opinions? See if you can think of it before I write it. It's bias. We want to leave all of our personal opinions or bias out of our summaries and just focus on those facts. Focus on the facts. Leave those personal opinions out. Don't include them. The last thing we really want to focus on when we're writing those summaries is we want to make sure that we're including the important details. Because here's the thing. I could sit here and I could tell you how my sock monkey has a little hole in the tail and its left leg is a little bit bigger than the right leg and the right eye is a little bit more chewed up than the left eye. But if I include those minor details, I'm not focusing on the fact that the sock monkey is pink, 8 inches tall, and chewed up on the nose. Those are the things we want to focus on. The other stuff can be left out, and when you look at the sock monkey closer, you can do that. But remember, it's like when you're running late to class, you didn't read that article, and you need to know the important facts. You want to know the important details, not the little stuff that I'll get later when I make it up. Bell's about to ring. Make sure you get those important facts. Otherwise, you're going to be left out. That's what needs to happen in your objective summaries. So, one more time. When you're writing those summaries of those articles, you want to make sure that you are only including the facts from the article, not your personal opinions. You also want to be sure that you leave your personal opinions out. That doesn't mean you can't have them. You could say that I loved reading this article, or I hated reading this article, or I think this article was silly. That's fine. But when you write that objective summary, you want to make sure you just leave that stuff out. Also, make sure you include those most important details. What are the things that you would tell your classmate as the bell's about to ring and they're running to class and they have to know? Make sure you're including the most important ones. And then we can leave the minor stuff out, or when we go back through and reread the article, maybe we'll decide that those are a little bit more important. But you should be focusing on those most important ones first and foremost to make sure that your summary is objective and that it doesn't start to slip to that subjective side. So, there's flipped lesson 1. If you didn't understand something that happened, or you need to go back and just rewatch it all again, go back, just rewind that video and watch it all again. Or go to that specific spot and just rewatch it, make sure you got those notes. If you think, yep, totally 100% good, got it, go ahead and take flipped quiz 1. That's so I can make sure you watched this video, you took these notes, and you understood what's going on. If you don't take that quiz by the beginning of class on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever I see you for that block, if you don't take it by the beginning of class, you will not be allowed to participate in the activity that we have going in that class until you take that quiz. So make sure you do it before that bell rings and your booty's in the seat in class. If you have any questions and you don't understand anything, please message me on Schoology, or you can always email me on my school email, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Also, if you have some feedback about these flipped lessons, let me know. Message me again on Schoology or email me. If you're like, Ms. Wood, this was awesome, I loved this for homework, let me do it again, great, message me. If you're like, Ms. Wood, that lighting makes you look so fabulous, that's great too, message me, let me know. I want to know if you like this or if I should change some things up to make it better. With that, go ahead and rewatch, pause, take the quiz, and I will see you in class. Thanks so much, guys.